We will give another 2 or 3 minutes just for any attendees and members of the committee to file in, so that we have enough committee members here to committee. So we'll get started in 2 or 3 minutes. Marisa, did you see the email from Nancy? Sorry, Marisa, I can't hear you, but it sounded like Nancy needed perhaps a Zoom link resent.
Yes, I'm just seeing it. I'll do that right now.
Okay, thanks.
Also, EJ, I don't see Colleen is joining us, but I do see that Jackie is an attendee from DOT. So just to let you know that she's in attendees.
Okay, thanks very much.
Jackie Lazaro.
Yep, thank you. Hello all, we'll get started in about 1 more minute. Just want to give 1 more minute for any attendees and for members of the committee to file in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, we got a pretty good showing. We'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome all. You're at the June cycle meeting of the Transportation and Environment Committee for Manhattan Community Board 5. I'm the chair of the committee, EJ Kalifarsky. I'm here alongside my vice chair, Sam Levy. Tonight, we have 3 items on our agenda, 2 of which I anticipate we'll vote on, but we'll see how that goes. For each issue, we'll hear a brief introduction from a member of the committee who has performed diligence on the request, after which we'll hear a briefing from the applicant or requester themselves on the issue. After that, there'll be an opportunity for each issue, there'll be an opportunity for committee members to ask questions, followed by an opportunity for any members of the public who are in attendance to ask a question or make a comment. I will ask at that time for everyone who has a comment to raise your hand, just to keep things organized. Please wait for that section where I open things up to members of the public. Finally, the committee will go into our business session where only members of the committee will speak as we discuss internally what, if any, action to take on the issue. With that, I think we will just go ahead and get started. Our first issue of the evening is a request by the Foundry Learning Center on East 34th Street and 4 Park Avenue. It's a request for a no parking zone. I'm going to ask BJ, I believe, led the diligence on this, just to introduce the issue.
Sure. I think Ileana's on. She's with the Foundry School. So the request was for no parking, no standing signage in front of their anticipated school opening, which is going to be in September. So the address is 4 Park Avenue, but the entrance is going to be on 34th Street, where the students will be dropped off. And this is a specialized needs school for children who are highly autistic. Is that right, Ileana?
Yeah, severely autistic children who require one-to-one teaching. Mhm.
Yeah, and so the request is so that because the school van will drop them off or parents will drop them off to have a designated zone. So Janice and I went through a walkthrough last Friday and we found that there actually is a signage already there because it's a bus lane. It's a very busy thoroughfare on 34th Street between Park Avenue and Madison Avenue. And so there is already an existing sign for no standing, no zone, no parking. So that's what we found. So I don't know how else to accommodate this request. Janice, do you have any, do you want to add anything else?
Apologies, I just joined, but seems like you covered it.
Okay, thanks, BJ. So I guess Ileana, we'll turn things over to you at this point. Let us know what you'd like to add or walk us through as far as this request goes, particularly the if you could recap what you're requesting different than the current situation.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, no, I definitely know there's a no standing sign already there in the area that we would be interested in doing drop off and pick up with our OPT school buses. The issue is that I first of all, I wanted to just clarify that our school buses can load and unload. My understanding of no standing is that it's for a very expeditious drop off and pickup. And sometimes our school buses might be parked out there for 30 or 40 minutes during that period, basically because our students have very high levels of need and can sometimes take a long time to get from the school bus to the building or safely at dismissal. So I wasn't sure that we were strictly covered under no standing. I wasn't sure if we needed something different related specifically to a school unloading and loading zone or during certain hours or something like that. I just don't know what kind of signage is possible and what kinds of accommodations are possible. So that's really the big thing, is I just wasn't quite clear on if there was anything else that could be done to make it possible for us to have what we need, which is a safe dismissal and loading.
And did DOT suggest a more permissive signage? Did they suggest what alternative signage you could have there other than no standing?
I actually came to you guys first, and I did that just because I wanted to get a sense from the committee of what you thought we should be asking for. I wasn't really sure what the correct steps were, if I should go to DOT first and wait to hear what they had to say and then come to the committee or start at the community board. So if I did things in the wrong order, I apologize, but I was just looking for guidance more than anything and how to address what I know is going to be a challenge for us on 34th Street.
Got it. For the most part, we generally like to see a more specific proposal that has been suggested or vetted by DOT so that we can take like an up or down recommendation on the specific proposal. So if you've got a few months to work on this, if it's not a time crunch, I think I would suggest that perhaps to directly work with DOT to get their recommendation. The board office will be happy to help facilitate that conversation as well, and let us know what you and DOT are leaning in the direction of. For my own part, it sounds like that would be a good safe thing to have the ability to safely load and unload students at whatever pace it needs to take place. So I suppose I'd be curious to find out, particularly at that point, particularly once there's a specific recommendation, how the community, how neighbors and residents feel about that. Specifically, yeah, Marisa, did you have some of that?
This is confusing because I reached out to DOT about this question, and, Colleen was very clear that it needs to go to the community board first. And so, we have this problem with DOT on these kinds of applications often. We have someone here from DOT, maybe they can specify what it is that is possible at this particular location. I'm not sure how the community board would know that without some DOT input. But we have like a chicken and an egg thing going on with DOT. So when I reached out to them, they very clearly said, we're not going to respond until we have something from the community board.
That's unusual. I'll just put it that way. That's literally every other transportation related topic that DOT sends us is usually with a recommendation that comes from DOT's expertise on whether it's a bus stop location or hotel loading zone location or anything like that. So it's highly unusual for DOT to just throw the details to a bunch of volunteers who are not traffic engineers.
And then, the other thing is, I think Ileana, when we spoke on Friday, said that the hours that they need to kind of either block out that portion of the road or safeguard it are the busy rush hour times, right? Because this is 34th Street going from east to west. And this is between Park Avenue and Madison. And that it's also a bus lane, but the hours are the morning rush hours and then also afternoon rush hours. As you know, the crosstown traffic has just been tremendous. And to have that as, any other signage, I think would be a burden on the traffic flow. And I don't think there are any residents per se, because again, this is more like a commercial area. But again, I think it's a conundrum I don't know what we're supposed to do as CB, community district.
Marisa, is it possible for you to elevate Jackie so Jackie can speak and we could ask, see if Jackie can add anything to this? Hi, Jackie. If you're here with us and you're able to shed any light on this from the DOT perspective, that would be really helpful.
Yeah, of course. And Ileana, I do believe if you can just send that request either to myself or to Colleen, and we can definitely look into it. I know we would go to our borough engineering team and see, what they recommend in terms of signage. And then if there is some sort of signage that would require community board support, then, we would, let you know, and then we would ask you to present that to the board and get either a letter of support or a resolution passed on your behalf.
Okay. Is it possible for me to ask a question?
Right now?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, please
okay.
Go ahead.
Is my understanding of a no standing sign accurate? Is it just for expeditious drop off and pickup, or would school bus unloading and loading, if it was, say, longer than 15 or 20 minutes, be covered under that? Like, am I spinning my wheels for no reason? Like, do we have the signage we need?
So from my understanding, I think you're correct that no standing is for a quick drop off and pickup of passengers. So I do believe if you try to use it for the bus, it may be, a little bit conflicting. You might have some issues. Yeah. So I would just, recommend that you send that request over so we can see, what our engineers recommend and what we can do to, try and find something to facilitate.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, our students might decide to sit down on the sidewalk for 30 minutes. It happens. They're severely autistic and it's just unpredictable. So we cannot be that quick with our unloading and loading. So I will reach out to you.
Yeah, of course. And I will put my contact information in the chat.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
So Ileana, if there are if there is, a few months here to deal with this issue, I'm not just trying to like punt this issue, to a later meeting, but I think we really would like to see a
Yeah.
specific recommendation from DOT. So if you are able to engage Jackie and Colleen, and again, Jackie, if you're able to bring some of the special requirements of this request, and the reasons that no standing itself might not be adequate, to the traffic engineers, like you just said, I think that'll be particularly helpful. I don't want us as a committee of 20 people to be inventing traffic policy on this meeting.
Understandable. Thank you. I'm happy
Okay,
to work with them.
and yeah, we don't want to create a time crunch, but
Sure.
because we're talking about just executing it, I think before the fall semester, is that right?
Yes,
we've got
we're
some
a
time to
12-month
deal with this.
program, and
Oh,
but
okay.
because we're for disabled children, but we're in our location on 30th Street through mid-August, and then we take a 2-week break, and we're not back until September when we are in our new location.
Okay, so I mean, it'll be great. It'll be great if DOT, Jackie, is able to provide a specific recommendation, and then we can hear that, perhaps at next month's meeting, and take a specific action on it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry that we couldn't get it totally resolved this month, but I think this is probably the right move for all of us. Okay. I'll simply just, in the interest of completeness, see if any members of the committee have any questions right here today, or I think otherwise we'll probably be hearing this again at a later month. Okay, not seeing any hands. And then finally, if there are any members of the public who have any question or comment on this right now, again, understanding that we'll talk more specifically about what signage should be placed at this location in a later month. But I guess if you have any comment or question about the process that we just laid out, feel free to raise your hand. Not seeing any. I guess we'll wrap this issue for today. Again, let us know if the board, Ileana, if the board office can help facilitate that at all. But I think Jackie just shared her email address in the chat.
Yep, I copied it.
Okay.
I'll send her an
All
email.
right, great. Okay, thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Ileana. We will.
Thank you, guys.
See you in a month or two.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Okay, moving right on to our second issue of the evening is a request for a hotel loading zone from the Ritz-Carlton Nomad Hotel at 25 West 28th Street. My understanding is that hotels, DOT generally grants a loading zone to hotels that have over 100 rooms, which this one does. But there's a special case here because the hotel and residents share the same entrance. And so with that, we'll hear a little bit about this issue. I believe diligence here was conducted by Jean. Jean, do you want to give us a little bit of an intro to the issue?
Hi, it's actually conducted by Noah, but I was CC'd on that thread, and Noah did a little more investigation than I did. But I can summarize our email here together.
Great.
We were in contact with Sean Luchman Singh, and he is employed by the hotel, and sent us a bit more information. The hotel has 250 rooms of occupancy, as well as 16 residential units, 2 restaurants on the ground level, 1 restaurant on the 2nd floor, and a rooftop bar on the 42nd floor, and a full-service spa. So they're asking for a no standing zone on 28th Street at the entrance of the hotel. But residents will also be utilizing the entrance on 1185 Broadway. which is also where the loading dock is located. So I believe they're only asking for a no standing zone at the front of, well, at the main entrance of the building on 28th Street. And I had also brought up, I've lived near that for about 3 years. And so I've only lived here while the hotel's been under construction. And I was wondering if there was precedent for vending carts or food trucks or that sort of thing before the construction. Broadway is fairly packed with those anyways. But I did want to know if the hotel had a position on accommodating food vendors that have been there traditionally or historically. Because I was aware of issues with the Hudson Yards development, sort of having sort of a passive aggressive conflict with the historic food truck vendors on that property. But there isn't, to my knowledge, it looks like the tree pits or the planters that are an issue at Hudson Yards that were being placed sort of to push food vendors off of the area, off of the block. And
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for that overview. Marisa, do we have someone from the hotel in attendance with us tonight?
Sean, who Jean spoke about, was invited as a panelist. I guess he has not yet joined us.
Okay, so we have no one from the applicant to answer these questions, I guess. Okay, well, that's troubling. But at any rate, since we can't hear more about this from the hotel themselves yet, I guess, if they're not going to show up, and I don't know, Marisa, if we can ping them by email. Do we? Now, this isn't a formal, application, but do we know if the hotel, if there was posting for residents in the area about this issue, Marisa?
He was sent the postings, and Mike, I don't know if he sent you back confirmations of those postings.
Yeah, I didn't get any confirmation, but he replied today when I asked him who else should be invited from their group to present, and he sent me one other email, but no one's present yet.
Jean, did you have something to add to that too?
He did send photos of the postings from Broadway and 28th Street.
Okay, so it was posted, but we still have no applicant. All right, well, the applicant isn't here. I think this might be another situation where we have to punt this to a later month. If they really wanted that loading zone, they probably should have sent somebody. So I guess if there are no objections from any members of the committee, or if anyone thinks that we particularly need to move on this without having all the facts, Jackie, I don't know if you have anything to add to this as well, but without the applicant, without all the information, I don't think we should just kind of be shooting blind here. Okay, not hearing any objection. I'll just, for the sake of completeness, it doesn't sound like we're going to have a debate and take any action this month, but we do have one, I think, public comment. So if you have a public comment on this application, there was a posting, so folks might be in attendance specifically to talk about this. If you have a comment, please use the raise hand feature now. It'll be entered into the public record, although we probably are not moving forward on any action with this tonight. Please use the raise hand feature. Or if you're on the phone, I think there's a special code to type in. Is that correct, Marisa?
It's *9 to raise your hand on the phone, and
Thanks.
*6 to unmute yourself if you're on the phone.
Cool, thank you. So first we'll hear from Charles. Charles, you can unmute yourself. Please try to keep your comment to,
Hi,
to
can you
about
hear
2
me
minutes.
okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, good. I'm so sorry, I'm on my phone today. I was having a bit of problem, connecting with Zoom on my phone. I just wanted to make a quick comment, especially with the previous applicant about the school and the no standing zone. As you guys might be aware,
right.
I had problems with my no standing zone in front of my building with cars breaking the no standing zone rule, and having to get law enforcement to really step in and do something about it. I think there's a need for a special type of signage or regulation for people with disabilities, because the lady from the school hit the nail on the head, which is, I think people are forgetting that people with disabilities sometimes take time to get into their vehicles, and they need a bit of extra time and a bit of, some sort of special regulation for their type of situation and their type of vehicle. And I think something should be done for special needs schools and for buildings with a population that has people with mobility impairment to have a special kind of regulation that would ensure that no one else would park there, but transportation for that, those for people, those with mobility impairments. I think there's definitely a need for that situation.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you, Charles, for the comment. I think that's particularly as relates to the last application. I think that's what we're hoping DOT will come back with, and that they understand the particular needs, and that hopefully they have something that is more appropriate than a no standing to recommend for that one. Thank you for the comment. Okay. Not seeing any other hands. As I said, I think we'll have to punt this. Thank you, Jean, for the overview, and we'll see if the applicant actually comes back to us. All right. Anyway, rolling right along, I think into our third and final item of the evening. Grand Central Partnership is going to, I believe, a vote is not required on a street seat, but I think we're about to get an update on a street seat proposed by Grand Central Partnership. Is someone from Grand Central Partnership with us?
Yes, EJ, I'm here, Fred Cerula.
Hi, Fred.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good, thank you. Let me just start by thanking you and the committee for giving me the time to appear tonight. Say hello to Vicky and Marisa. Thank you for getting me here. I really wanted to just take a couple of minutes just to share a little bit about what we're working on and just kind of run it by the board. It's not a new concept, of course, in many of our neighborhoods, but it does go to our focus on enhancing and improving sort of the public realm, especially in this sort of post-COVID world where finding more outdoor spaces, particularly in Midtown East, which is always a challenge, is something that we have embraced. Just as a reminder, in 2019, this committee and the board authorized and supported a street seat activation along Vanderbilt Avenue between 44th Street and 45th Street. It was an application made by Tishman Speyer at 200 Park. It was out for the season. It was really quite successful. It was one 40-foot street seat with tables and chairs for people to enjoy. It was not exclusive to any business. It was a public amenity. And of course, by the following season, we were in COVID. The street seat has not returned up until at least this point. And in our work as the bid, we have spent a lot of time and are working with DOT on trying to expand that program, particularly along Vanderbilt Avenue. And I'm just going to, if it's okay, EJ, just share a few photos with you so that it will be easier to visualize what I'm talking about. So this is the actual rendering of the street seat that was approved by the community board back in 2019. So this is physically what the structure looks like, at least as a rendering. The next photo is basically what it looks like in real life. This is an actual photo from 2019 of what the activation actually looks like. And it's actually in the same location between 44 and 45 on the east side of the street along 200 Park. That side of the street for the past couple of years has actually, and this goes in the what we would call the parking lane, even though, and I know this has been a subject of discussion this evening, this is a no standing anytime regulatory parking situation, but that lane has been taken up because of the sidewalk work and building work that 200 Park has been undertaking over the last couple of years. That the enclosure that was around that lane has now been removed, and we thought it would make a great opportunity for us to not only return the street seat to its previously authorized location, but also to increase the number of street seats along the block. What the red bars represent are 3 40-foot street seats, and the circles that sort of are before and after each one represent planters of some type. DOT has given us at least initial approval of this. They welcome the opportunity to do it. We will maintain them. We will put them up. We will own them. We will take them down. They won't be up permanently throughout the year, but during the season where DOT will permit us, particularly the summer and into the early fall. And then the expectation is that they will be required to be taken down and stored, which we will also arrange, but it will provide an opportunity between 45th Street and 44th Street to create an activation all along the block that will just provide more public space for people to enjoy, to have a salad, make a cell phone call, or just enjoy just being outside. So we wanted to share this. We know how important public space and activations are to the board. Obviously, this committee, obviously transportation and the environment is important, but I assure you that from a parking point of view, no one should be in any of these spots. The photographs that show the mail truck and the other vehicle is illegal parking. So we're not really denying or taking away any locations to park. We would just be beautifying the area, which is obviously one of our primary missions. And we wanted to share that with you, obviously get your take on it, answer any questions you may have. And obviously there'll be more to come as we continue to try to grow locations to provide more space for the public to enjoy as they return to the neighborhood.
Got it. Thank you for that update. And yeah, just for the committee's awareness, the Community Board 5 voted on and recommended approval of the original application for this seasonal street seat in front of 200 Park back in June of 2019. So very much appreciate the update, Fred. I'll let anyone on the committee ask questions as well. I just have a initial clarification, Fred. So for the 2019 season, you said there was one 60-foot installation.
40 foot.
Sorry,
40 foot.
40 foot. Six
Sure.
by 40 foot. My brain mashed
No.
together. So there was one 40-foot installation, and now you are proposing for the first time expanding it to 3.
That's correct. And the first time it was a private applicant who made the application. This is also the first time the bid is making the application.
Got it. Okay, so it was just Tishman, and that one was just Tishman. Going forward, it would be the bid maintaining all 3.
That's correct. We taking full responsibility for the plantings, the maintenance, the breakdown, the putback, whatever we're required to do, where that was actually the responsibility of the private owner at the time in 2019.
Got it. Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. Okay, yeah, can you just, sorry, and one last question. Can you clarify the frontage of where the 3 seats are going to,
Yes.
are going to be going in front of?
Yes, I'm going to bring this back up for 1 second because it'll be easier to imagine, to visualize. So if you take a look at the map, this map shows us the block between 44th and 45th Street on the east side. So it runs parallel to 200 Park. And it is structured in order to accommodate all the rules and laws with respect to how far we need to be from a crosswalk and a fire hydrant. So if you go to the south end at the 44th Street end, and I know you're familiar with it, but we're more than 15, almost probably 19 feet from the crosswalk north. And then the first street seat would appear. And then there will be a couple of planters with the second, a couple of planters in the third, and we would be 8 feet, which is the city's requirement, from the crosswalk at 45th Street going south. There was a discussion about the placement of the street seats with DOT. And I support what their point of view was on this, which was not to create one solid wall where no one could get through the middle in the event of an emergency or people needed to get off the sidewalk. We didn't want to create 120 linear feet of an inability to get to the street or to get onto the sidewalk from the street in an emergency. And that's why there's a spacing between them. But we can beautify them a little bit too. So, with tables and chairs and umbrellas on the street seat itself, with some and the street seat is a plantable street seat, as you saw from the rendering. And then having some planters in the middle, but that would not prohibit pedestrians from getting through. I think we could really beautify Vanderbilt in a new way. And just provide some opportunity when you go a little more south. As one Vanderbilt Plaza, which is less activated, but used a great deal for sort of the transition between one Vanderbilt and Grand Central, and then also just to walk north or south, up or down Vanderbilt. This will really enhance the look of Vanderbilt Avenue. I also don't have to tell you that there are several restaurants on Vanderbilt Avenue that are still participating in outdoor dining. And so I think will be a really welcoming sort of feel to Vanderbilt that we can really be proud of. It's sort of been a little quiet and a little lonely there. And now that there are people actually coming back, we'd like to give them something that they can enjoy when they're there.
Great. Thanks for recapping that again. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks. So at this point, I want to let any members of the committee who have questions be able to ask any questions. Members of the committee, please use the raise hand if you've got a question for the Grand Central Partnership. Yeah, David.
I just had a quick question on the density of it, Fred, because I guess it was a rendering showed 4 tables and 2 umbrellas, and then your diagram just showed, I guess, 3 tables in 40 feet, 6 people. Seemed pretty low density. What's the ultimate capacity of one of these things?
Well, if you take a look, David, it's a great question. The rendering, this rendering is really just a mock-up that is attempted to lay out the street, not so much the street seat, but the street layout to ensure that we're meeting all of the requirements in terms of footage from corners and fire hydrants and other amenities that the city requires clearance for. But this is really, if you can see, it's 1, 2, 3, there are 4 tables that are laid out pretty nicely here. And that's pretty much, I would say, if all of this includes tables and chairs, which we would expect, not just a series of chairs for people to sit, but having a table with them, that this is pretty much the maximum that you could have. And I think we also need to be conscious, at least at this point in time, that people don't want to be on top of each other either. So, I mean, I think when we lay it out and we have, we have tables and chairs where we've ordered additional ones, but that seems to be the maximum capacity without really not making it comfortable for people. So figure if it's 4 tables and chairs, you could have some tables with 4 seats, some tables with 2 seats. We would have, a variety of sitting areas. People take the chairs. They're not fixed to the ground, so people can move them around, which we see in our Pershing Square West. No matter where we put the tables in the morning, it's not even close to where we take the tables away at night. People follow the sun or the shade. And but that's pretty much the density maximum. So and this is really the biggest street seat that we could have built. There could be a 60-foot street seat, but we get into the amount of footage we have available to us. It made most sense on a practical level to do 3 40-foot street seats. It's also easier to maintain and break down and reinstall and move out. So there's a variety of reasons why this was the footage. There's smaller ones, just so you know. There were 20-foot ones as well, but they just didn't seem to serve the purpose very well.
And what, after hours, do you have to secure these? And I guess the other question is, do you have to provide homeless services in the evening as well? I mean, I assume they're a gathering place.
It's a great question, David. And as you can imagine, it's probably in this period of time, one of the concerns that many stakeholders raise about trying to enhance the public realm. You create spaces for people, and then there's a concern by others that it could become something difficult to manage. The tables and chairs, because they're not fixed, they will be removed in the evening and overnight. And then that also will enable us to clean the space and ensure that the space is always clean. But every day, the tables and chairs, weather permitting, if it's pouring rain or we have an early snow and it's set up, they won't be. We follow the same principle at Pershing Square West, which we manage, the beautiful new plaza at 42nd and Park. And we'll do that on Pershing Square East as well, which is now it's just beginning. It's really formal construction, but it's all now enclosed for construction purposes. And this summer, I can tell you that on 43rd Street, where a shared street is being developed, there's an interim treatment there on 43rd between Lex and 3rd, which has sections for the public sort of carved out, but there hasn't been any seating in there. And this season, we will also include tables and chairs in those areas for people to enjoy. But also at night, all of those tables and chairs will be removed and then re-put back in the morning. That's an operational challenge, but something we're really happy to be able to provide to the community. And we're developing the operational plan internally on how to manage that.
But you don't have a relationship with Breaking Ground or somebody like that?
Oh, so thank you for reminding me of that. Yes, this is not always common, but the Grand Central Partnership has a contract with Breaking Ground, and we have 2 outreach workers every day in the district that serves the community and helps those in need. They respond, they interact with those who are in the district. And of course, they're communicating always with us and with stakeholders and with the city and with the MTA. Of course, they use Bowery residents in the terminal, but there's a great coordination for us, given, you know, the district we represent and the terminal being sort of in the heart of the district. So yes, we work with them. We have a wonderful relationship with them. I can tell you that, you know, in the past year alone, the contract that we have with Breaking the Ground, not the one with it has with the city, but we have been responsible for, in the past year, placing 31 people into housing. And over the course of our contract with Breaking Ground, I think we're now close to 300 people have been placed in housing through the contract with the bid. So we're very proud of those statistics, but it's been a very helpful tool. With that is not a job we manage. We need experts and people who trained and understand. Those who are in the neighborhood who either refuse services or come back. You know, we know who they are. We know their names. You know, we see them every day, and they feel very much at home in the neighborhood. But it's been a really wonderful relationship for us and our team to work with the Breaking Ground team.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Fred and David. I think, Maki, did you have your hand up?
I did. Thanks so much, EJ. I just wanted to make sure that we were making sure to follow the time limitations. The quick question I had was just to make sure that, similar to the previous resolution that was approved a few years ago, that there would be a limitation on commercial activity in this space. And I didn't know, other than potentially maybe no smoking or something like that, if otherwise the space would be open for anyone in the public to use.
This space is absolutely exclusively for the public. There is no exclusive use intended or that will be permitted in this space. That is not our intention at all, nor would we approve a request for that. We want this to be something that any member of the public can enjoy at any time that it's open and operating.
Perfect. And related to that point, I just wanted to make sure that the transition from the sidewalk to the street seat space is usable for folks who are in wheelchairs or mobility assisted devices.
Yes, it's actually there. The answer is yes. Not only are we required to have, even if this was lower, there would have to be a ramp that was installed. But the fact is that this is built, the producer and manufacturer of the street seat actually comes out and builds the platform to the curb, the sidewalk level, we'll say. And so there is absolutely, I think you could see it. I keep taking it away so I could see everybody on the screen, but if you could see this, Maki, on how this works, there's a very easy transition for ADA accessibility or anybody, just, you know, anybody. But yes, we're not only concerned about that and have prioritized that across the entire length of the street seat. The city would only require one section of it to be at least a ramp so that someone can get up, but we're ensuring that it goes across the entire length of the street, of each street seat.
Great. Okay, thanks for highlighting that, Fred. Joel.
Just a quick question. So this is all on the east side of the street. On the west side of the street, I know there's, or I think there was at least last summer, another restaurant, a private restaurant that had a lane, the parking lane taken up by its outdoor seating area.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, so this part of, if you could go to your other picture, this part of Vanderbilt, yeah, that one. At least as I remember, it was two ways. I think now you've switched it. It's been switched to a one-way street. Is that correct?
No,
Yeah?
this part of the street, Joel, will remain two ways.
It will. Okay.
What is happening is at 44th Street.
Yep.
Is everyone checking?
The eastbound lane, which I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but the eastbound lane, it goes, you will be able to go north
Mhm.
or south. It becomes a one-way south between
Okay.
44 and 43.
Okay.
And that creates the loop road to go around 43rd Street, around 335 Madison, and up alongside 1 Vanderbilt. There's 335 has a loading dock there. 1 Vanderbilt's loading dock is on 43rd. So the one-way street is south of this. This portion, at least at this point in time, is a two-way street. But
Okay.
you are correct to note that the street seat is only on the east side. Amos, which is, you could see
Mhm.
here, is
Yeah.
the restaurant on the corner. That black line is representative of the existing outdoor dining space that the restaurant has and continues to have. And then the rest of the block is completely clear. And so, and we've monitored this from a traffic point of view, because this, where the street seats are proposed and where they were in where it was in 2019, that lane has been inaccessible for the past couple of years anyway, due to construction work at 200 Park. So the traffic actually flows. It flows with the restaurant. We're not interrupting at all the Yale Club's accessibility to its front doors, which is obviously a priority for them, or 52 Vanderbilt's entrance. So it's really just in the parking lane along the 200 Park stretch. We've been in communication with the ownership. Ownership supports this. And so there really shouldn't be any issues. But no, look, given who we are and what we do in the neighborhood, if issues arise, we are open to reevaluating, but we just wanted to make sure that we can do something to enhance what's happening out in the field and in the district right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Janice.
Yeah, I just had a quick question about the construction materials. I was just wondering, since this is something that is meant to be, put up seasonally and then taken down, to what extent the reuse of these materials has been considered?
So it's Janice, thank you for the question. So I'm going to do my best, and I'll show you this, but I'm going to do my best to describe this. I have this information from the manufacturer. So black locust will be used for the deck of the street seats. It's an alternative wood to tropical hardwoods that's typically used in wood deck construction. It's local, so it supports local economies, and it actually alleviates dependence on tropical and rainforest deforestation, which we think is obviously has a sort of a positive in this world of sustainability, a really positive message. The planters, which have a different sort of, part of the structure, they're clad in like this, also an alternative to hardwoods. And we're doing everything we can to make this sort of the best kind of product, even if this ends up being a temporary, whether it's 1 season or 2 seasons until we come up with something new. But we were really thoughtful about how this can be made, that we could be proud of, and it isn't just your typical, wood structure that gets nailed together and then taken apart. We also know that, and it's one of the reasons why we are actually contracting with the manufacturer to do the install and then the removal for us, as opposed to us trying to do it, so that they know how to manage the materials, they know how to manage how this is all put together, and hopefully it will remain in good working condition for seasons to come.
Great to hear. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Not seeing any more questions from members of the committee at this point. I think we only have one attendee from the
Hello?
public right now, but if there are any questions or comments from members of the public, please use the raise hand feature.
Hi, this is Sean. Can you hear me?
Sean, we're talking specifically about the Grand Central Partnership issue right now.
Okay, sorry.
Not seeing any hands from members of the public. We will take it back into the business session. Thanks, Fred, for walking us through all those details. You know, I just to repeat, we are on record. Oh, sorry, Fred, I guess one final question for you. Obviously, Community Board 5 is on record in July of 2019 saying this street seat in this location is a great idea. You know, I know that a couple of details such as, you know, the number of street seats and the operator are changing from that point, but you know, unless there's an objection from, you know, anyone on the committee, you know, unless anyone thinks that those details, you know, meaningfully change our endorsement, our recommendation of support for that, and unless you're asking us for another recommendation of support to like supersede the original one, you know, it doesn't seem to me like we would need to change our standing support of the street seat in any way. Does that sound right?
Yes, that's fine. I was not coming to ask you to do that at all. I just wanted to ensure that I was informing the committee and the board through the committee of things that we're doing that we think is good for the neighborhood. Obviously, if you wanted to do that, that would be your choice, but it certainly isn't necessary at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, we really do appreciate the update. It sounds like it's an expansion of a successful program, and looking forward to seeing that.
Yes, absolutely. And I thank the committee for the time and for all the work that you do. You know, for Community Board 5, it's a great neighborhood, and we couldn't do what we do without you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Fred.
Okay, bye-bye.
So thanks. So again, unless there is any specific comment from any members of the committee on this, I think that I don't think there's a need to take any action here tonight. Okay, not seeing any hands from the committee. Thanks a lot, Fred. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night. So, you know, that wraps up our agenda. You know, I know that a representative from the Ritz-Carlton Nomad is here now. You know, unfortunately, we, you know, I guess I'm seeing in the chat that you said you had a technical difficulty. You know, unfortunately, we came up to the point in the agenda where we were going to hear the item. There was no one from the hotel here on the Zoom, at least not that we could tell, and anyone who had signed up, we had members of the public who wanted to speak to the issue. Any members of the public who were here to speak to the issue left when we couldn't hear the issue for the evening. So unfortunately, we can't dive into the issue here now. The only thing I can recommend is that you communicate with the board office to try and bring it up at one of our future committee meetings. I mean, we are happy to hear the application in full and let members of the public speak to it, but you know, unfortunately, we can't hear it now after telling members of the public that it wasn't going to be heard tonight. So, you know, sorry for any inconvenience, and we'll try to resolve any technical issues in future meetings. But I think that's what we have to do here.
Okay, do you have any idea when the next meeting is going to be?
That was going to be my very next update. The July cycle meeting in 1 month falls on the Juneteenth holiday this year. So I believe we're close to finalizing plans with our board office. We're probably going to change the scheduled night of this committee meeting to June 23rd. which is not a Monday as we normally do, but is I think a Wednesday. So the next committee meeting will be on June 23rd. We will hear other issues and potentially, the Ritz-Carlton Nomad as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So with that, that brings to a close our agenda for the evening. At this point, we would entertain any new business from members of the public who wanted to bring up new business, but we have 0 members of the public in attendance at this point. So I think that just brings our meeting to a close. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining and for rolling with some of the twists and turns of the meeting. Really appreciate it. And everybody have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Take it easy.